Okay, good morning. Monday, 31st of May, so this month is over. Can't believe it, and I know my next month is going to be really busy because I've got a deadline at the end of the month, so I have to get 30 colouring templates done, plus 3 more that need to be coloured. I usually get a bit of they really need the black and white ones by the end of the month, but I usually have a week or so's leeway for the coloured at the end, so I really need to get my backside into gear. I'm a bit late getting my backside into gear today because I was up late, and I'll talk about that more, but I'm going to do that while I draw. So here is a piece of Bristol paper which is very smooth, very white, and it measures 21 centimetres by 21 centimetres, which is about 8¼ inches by 8¼ inches. I've put pencil borders around, so I've got a rough idea of leaving space around it, otherwise I go right up to the edge of the paper. And I've put a quote here, which is one of my favourite ones, and I have many favourite ones from Terry Pratchett, and it follows on from the truth thing yesterday, the truth words that I finished decorating yesterday. A lie can run around the world before the truth has got its boots on. So I saw something. I watched a sort of like an update on Inkscape as I was coming around this morning, and it took me a while to come around today. And it was mentioned about how you can, in software like that, which is like Adobe Illustrator, I use Affinity Designer, that you can get text to follow a line you've drawn. And I thought, I want to know how to do that. It's something I've wanted to know what to do. So I looked in the manual I've got and I couldn't find what I was looking for. So I thought, I know, I'll go and log on to it, have a play and see what happens. So I did do that. But in the end, I used the help function on there, and I had to look at text, how to make, it's called getting text to go along a path or something like that, adding text to a path. And so a path is basically a line. And the instructions were actually quite clear when I found the bits, because there was a lot of blurb to begin with. I'm not big on blurb and explanations. I don't want to know definitions of what things are, and I just want to know, how do I do this? Show me, simply, without all the technical jargon and whatever. I know what I want to do. So I eventually followed it, and eventually I went, oh, it's that easy, is it? Yeah, because I'm not familiar with tools in these Illustrator or vector drawing programs, really. And of course I've wondered why I've not been able to colour and things in them, because I've got the Affinity suite of programs. I use Affinity Publisher a lot to create the images I share on social media, because it's really easy to use. So, and Affinity Photo I do use to sort out the coloured images for colouring books as well, because they need to be in a specific kind of colour format and resolution and goodness knows what else. So that does the trick. But I've tried using Designer and Photo for colouring in artwork, and I've never really got anywhere with it. And it turns out that it's a bit more complicated and yet a lot more easy than I thought, because at the top of the page there's something called personas, or the top of the screen, and I haven't really understood what they were, because I haven't really dug and delved into these particularly, but I guess I will be now, bit by bit. And the personas are the way that tools work. So like the usual persona in Designer is vector drawing, so lines, graphic lines and so on. You can adjust the lines and do things with those. But then there's what they call a pixel persona, which is where you can add colour. So I'm going to have to learn. Oh, I say I'm going to have to. I want to learn about it because I have the software and it'd be nice to use it. And the more I have to work with, I guess, more power to my elbow, as the saying goes. But I don't really know what that means other than you're able to do more things, I suppose. But so I did this, and this is my first, well, I had a couple of goes, but an attempt at this where I wanted a wavy line with the words on, and if I put all the words on one line, they were a bit small. I've put them on 2 lines and I'm still not convinced it's okay, but it's something to work with today, which is fine by me. Now the pen I'm using today is one of the Tombow Fudenosuke pens, or Suke, I do not know quite how it's pronounced, but these are pens that have a flexible tip, and this is the one. It's got a dark navy blue barrel, which can be difficult to see if the light isn't good, but on the barrel, I don't know if you can see, if I move this up it'll autofocus. Can you see there's like a little green box in there? Yeah, I think so. There we go. Should autofocus, perhaps it's refusing to autofocus. Set on for it, who knows. And that means that the tip here is a hard tip, which means to get it to change thickness, the thickness of the line, because you can draw really, really fine lines with this, or really, really thick ones. Or of course you can go from thin to thick and back again, or remaining as thick. And it's a bit of pressure, used for calligraphy, hand lettering and so on. But I quite like to draw with them because it gives a kind of, I suppose, lino cut feel to it. And every now and again, I really do feel the need to use them because I need to practice. It's that practice that sometimes needs to be done to keep your hands in with those skills or to develop them further. And I don't really develop these very much further, to be honest. So I was learning some digital wizardry this morning briefly, after I'd had breakfast. And although I'm not entirely 100% convinced that this is a decent layout of text, I'm not convinced at all, but I thought I'd make use of it and do some drawing for a little bit, and then get myself sorted and shower and so on, and maybe later on get out for a walk. It is quite sunny out and it's forecast to be quite warm today for May. I think it's up to something over 20 degrees Celsius here. What that is in Fahrenheit I don't know, but Google will tell you. Which means that if I do go out, it won't be until later this afternoon, once the sun has lowered in the sky somewhat. To help with sun exposure on my skin, and even though I might have high factor sun cream on, I can still burn, believe it or not. Have a reaction to it, so and for now I'm just getting some warm up drawing done, because if I can, I will make a start on the next, or continue with the next template for the colouring book I need to do, and then feel I've achieved something before I go out for a walk. I was up late last night because I'd arranged a Zoom chat with Brett, a friend in America who runs the Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans Facebook group, and we've been getting together on Zoom fairly regularly in the past few weeks for chats and to catch up on art and other things. And of course, when you're chatting, obviously there's a time difference as well as a physical distance between Wales and America. And so when it's, sort of like a time of the day where she's not busy herself, it's often late evening here in the UK. So I do tend to end up staying later than perhaps is good for me at times, but that's okay because I know it's good for me to have that kind of social contact with someone who's a lovely person, and where there's chatter and laughter and so on, and which is really, really lovely. And my days are so flexible, really. As long as I get what I need to do done in a day, all is fine and well, really. As far as I'm concerned, anyway. So I was surprised when I woke up. I did wake up earlier during my, sort of like sleep. I know the sun had risen because it was light, but I just rolled over and got back to sleep, which is good. And I then woke again, I don't know, about 8:30, 9 o'clock. But age doesn't come by itself, and one of the things that's happened is that it does take me quite a while to get myself organised and sorted in the morning. So, or even moving out of bed. Sometimes it's a necessity to get to the bathroom. It makes me move, but sometimes my eyes don't work properly and I'm a bit clumsy, and sometimes I just have to go back to bed for a little while until I really come round properly. And I often put YouTube on and watch things on YouTube that are of interest, and cat video, and I saw in my feed an update on Inkscape, which is a open source vector graphics program. So it's free. People donate their time, their efforts to develop this software because they believe that it should be this kind of quality professional software should be available to everybody, not just to people who can afford it, or it's a business cost for them. And and it is professional quality. I've never really understood Inkscape because the sort of like more Photoshop-y style version, free, open source software version is GIMP. And I used to use GIMP a lot in the past, but I never really understood a lot of it. Whereas now, of course, I most probably would, so I may have a look at those again. Especially as I'm beginning to understand sort of like, I suppose, vector graphics and the like. Now I'm going up to the paper here, and there might be little gaps and smudges, but these are things I can sort out as I if I scan it in to do anything with. I mean, it may just be that I'm drawing for the sake of drawing today, and what I end up with, I might go, ugh, and leave it at that. Maybe not, I don't know yet. Too early to say. So it was lovely to catch up with Brett. I do have to say that. Always is. Always a pleasure. Even if it does have an impact on my sleep patterns for a day or two. But that's okay. It may mean that my sleep just settles down into a new pattern again and all will be well in the world. I think my problem is that if I'm not up early enough in the morning, I can find it hard to think that my day isn't wasted. And that can be a bit of an issue for me. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I'll do the same as I did on the other side and tuck some in like this just to connect it. That'll be fine, lovely, I think. Just thicken them up. Email. Like I'm going to rush to look at what that is. It's a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, and it's lovely to have nice weather for it. It's one of the weeks of school holidays here as well. So lots of people will be out and about in the lovely weather. So I'm not that worried about going anywhere or, you know, doing things we haven't been able to do for so long. Because it would be just way too crowded in too many places. And I've got years ahead of me yet, and I'll get there. But I'm glad it's sunny and tea, cold tea, but it's tea. And I will hope to get out and get some fresh air and a walk round later on. But yeah, so that's about it in many ways, really. It's just a funny old series of days, I think. Oh, funny old life moments. It's certainly been an interesting couple of days in different ways, because there seems to have been plenty of people that have, I say plenty, you know, I had a long conversation with another good friend on Saturday, which was really good, about very different things than all of this, than art. So which also was very good. So and we always say it's been too long and we should do this more often, and it just never seems to happen, I suppose, but that's fine. It's when it's needed, when it's meant to be. So, I don't know why I've got shells or wings here, but it just seems the right kind of thing to put in. These are creating shapes on their own, and I think I may continue and just fill everything around it with this kind of thing rather than this kind of pattern, rather than putting motifs and things in, because it's quite fun to do this. I did do a lot of drawings like this when I was playing around with digital art a little while back. Where I would put a black layer over a brightly coloured background, and then I'd set my pen up to erase the black and show the colour through. And it was just using pen lines and shapes and thicknesses to create pattern and a rhythm in them. And I suppose that's what I'm going to be doing here. And I may very well just keep joining these just to define that space that they create, because it is a nice thing to do. thin lines. And it's with those though, it was more of a mandala kind of thing, whereas this really is just creating a crazy amount of pattern and texture in the space I've got available, which too can be fun, I think. I think these are similar to a Zentangle pattern called Senna, or Sena, Sena. I say similar because I'm constructing it in a different kind of way, sort of. It's very angular-y. I'm just going with the flow, I suppose. I think for the Zentangle ones, you start with a shape, often an S shape, I think in the middle, like that. And then you use that as the line to hang your, I was going to say clothes off, but you know, these particular lines from. And sometimes just create them going together like this. This is a fairly new Fudenosuki pen, which means that I am breaking it in. The more I'm using it, the more flexible the tip is becoming, which is nice. But it also means that I have to use a fair amount more control. That's going to be a really awkward shape to use this on. Oh, cloak. And then you can see how with this one I haven't done the scalloped edges. I'm just letting the lines join together as they need to, which is, well, it's different to the rest, but it almost probably will tie in eventually. And I'm just going around in a spirally shape there, because it all works out in the end, whichever way you look at it. But there's lots of different ways of achieving the same thing, as always. I don't know if the microphone on my computer is picking it up, but my windows are open and there's a lot of, I can hear people playing loud music somewhere nearby, lots of cars coming and going. At night, there's lots of people out and about now and lots of noise and arguments or rowdiness. It's something we've not experienced for a year, really, or over a year, in any great amount. So just hoping that all of this won't set us back in terms of coping with COVID. Time will tell. That's why I'm being cautious myself. So it's nice though, on its way. Though it can spook me, especially if there's loud noises in the middle of the night and my windows are open. It can knock me out of my sleep. And I get startled, I get into hypervigilant mode then, which has a knock-on effect for days, because it exhausts me emotionally. I don't know whether that is something I will ever get over, to be honest. Never really got to the root cause of this in therapy as to why I'm like that. why I become so hypervigilant. I think it's like an onion skin layers. You take one and there's another one and another one and another one, and I think that I may have a rather large number, and it's a case of saying, well, let's get me to a place where I'm good enough. It's good enough for now. And I know then how to look after myself in terms of that awareness that loud and peoply places are maybe not the best things for me to go to at this time. Maybe in the future it will change. Maybe it won't. But for now, I can make those choices. Like today, bank holiday. I'm thinking, as I think about it, I'm thinking about going out for a walk, but the last sort of like sunny weekend, and I think it might have been a bank holiday, it was so crazy busy with people. I got so freaked. I was running back to my car just about. I don't run, but walking extremely purposefully and with focus. And to get home, and I was stressed out for the rest of that day and the next day. And it took me a long while to go back out for that walk. And walks are good for me. But being stressed is not good for me. Not in that kind of way. There are different kinds of stress. One I think is called a eustress, which is EU stress spelled. And this is the stress you can be under doing something that's enjoyable, perhaps where you're learning something new that you want to learn, or things that are, it doesn't have a negative impact on you. So I'm trying to think of examples, and I can't at the moment. I think that's about the best I can come up with. So, there are examples of that, but then the kind of stress I'm talking about is the one that has a big negative impact on my emotional and physical and mental well-being, because when you're stressed constantly, the stress hormones that course through your body have an effect on your physical health. And if you're living constantly under stress, you might de-stress a little bit, but you're so close to being overwhelmed by stress that a little bit of stress can tip you up and over again. And I think stress chemicals I have mostly ebb away, but at least once a month, because I go to pick my prescription up once a month, those stress levels get spiked. And it can take a number of days for them to disappear. So when I'm overly stressed, I become very tired. I want to sleep all the time. I don't want to go out. I don't want to do much. I don't eat and feed myself properly. And so it has a big knock-on effect. The difference now is that I'm aware of this. And so if I know I'm going to be doing something that will cause me that kind of stress, I plan accordingly. So, for example, Friday I had my second vaccination. So I knew that for the rest of Friday and most probably the weekend, I needed to make sure that I didn't set myself things that I had to do, partly just in case I had some serious side effects of the vaccine, but also because I know that the stress would have exhausted me, and it did. I slept so much Friday and Saturday, and that's a sign of me being overstressed. So, but I made provision for that, and I decided that I was going to do self-care and listen to my body and what it needed and my emotions and so on, and take care of myself like that, and I did. So, and I know I'm really, really lucky, because the way that I live my life, in fact I'm single, I've only got myself to look after, and I work for myself, I'm self-employed, but I'm able to manage my time that way, and I am so grateful for it. I really, really am. and it took a lot for me to actually recognise that this was something that I actually really needed to do. And that it was okay to do this, you know, as self-care. It's very difficult while I was still teaching because obviously I had to go into work. I think this is going to be a test piece because I keep changing my mind about what I'm doing. We'll see. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a fine outline and work from a point somewhere in here to add these. I suppose this is another variation on that. Just heard a bang. Don't think it was anybody at the door. It might be next door working in their garden. This is either a variation on Senna or it's a variation on another Entangled pattern that's quite similar called Pepper. There's a lot of them that are quite similar in many ways. This is not my best pen work. I don't know whether this is going to fit in any way, but what I'm going to do is add another ring, and that's what I think turns it more into Pepper. So I think normally you'd use a string, a pencil line, perhaps to delineate this edge. My pen work is really shocking, I do have to say that. And I think it's happened because I think this is really just a test piece and I'm going to see what happens here and use it just to explore what I like and what I don't like. Yeah. So I am ever so grateful that I'm able to live life in a way that allows me to take care of my stress levels, but more so that I have an awareness of them as well. And my heart goes out to people who don't have that opportunity. I thought all of these different things were going to look a bit strange together with the scalloped edges and so on, but perhaps they don't because they're all variations on a theme, aren't they? So put another one in here and look. I'll say it here, there'll be notes as well in the description and so on, but any products I mention, I buy them. I'm not gifted or paid, promoted or anything in any way by any company to mention their products at all. And these are things that I've found I like to use. But I have got other kinds of Fudenosuki pens. Some are hard like this one, others are much softer. And they all work, and I like to use them in different ways, or I have done. I think I don't use them much for colouring pages and templates because they become a style that isn't associated with me, because often the illustrations end up looking quite, in some ways, antique, or I won't say old-fashioned, but they're more like lino cuts or wood cuts. than people are used to from me. And while I like that kind of drawing, I like to explore it from time to time. It's not something that I think people would recognise or particularly want. I don't know. If you think differently, drop me a line, leave me a comment. So if I ever do add colour to this one, that's if I ever finish it, because of course I've said I'm not really all that happy with it. If I do add colour, I will tend to mimic the style of a lino cut or a wood cut, where the colour is quite simple and the lines speak for themselves. Of course, it's the thickness of lines and the shapes of them that create a sense of volume, of dimension in the drawing. And of course, I don't always see that until I stand back and look. So I've got no idea how these appear. I can see it when I look in the screen, where I can see the preview of this. This is actually building up really quickly as well, isn't it? It is. So let me have a look. I'm quite enjoying doing this. Start in the centre and then put those rings around so you get those different levels, I suppose. Yeah, that was a car leaving the street, so I don't know whose or where. But yeah, everything's muted when windows are open, when windows are closed, and then when it's such a lovely day and the air is still cool, even though the sun, is going to make it feel hot out. It's lovely to have the windows open at night as well. The downside is allergies, tree pollen. It's been high the last couple of days. I can tell by the effect it's having on mucus in my nose and on my chest a bit. That's what causes my asthma. So I'm all right. I haven't needed to use the relieving inhaler at all. I've been really lucky there, but I've got that option. The preventer is doing its job, which is the important thing. So I'm okay, but it's, it does make life a bit unpleasant at times. Nasally, shall we say. But it won't last forever. The trees will soon have done all their flowering. Pollen will be all blown away. Pollination done, and then the nuts and seeds will be ready in the autumn. So it's just for a short period of time every year that it's at its worst. And other things can provoke it. Very dry weather can, dusty, and sometimes chemicals, household cleaners, things like that can. But it's the antihistamines help hugely, and as long as I remember to stay away from smelly candles mostly, and be careful what household cleaning products I use or how I use them. So things like bleach are always good if I'm going out for a while. And when I come back, it's mostly dissipated, and if it's bleached down the loo, flush the loo and disappear again, and all is well in the world again. I can imagine it's going to be very noisy this evening as people have barbecues and things, so that's okay. I know somebody was having a barbecue close to me the other night, and whatever they had a lot of garlic on it. And I absolutely love garlic. And so I had some sweet potatoes that were ready to roast. So I just crushed some garlic and added it to them, and my house was filled with my own garlicky smell, and I thoroughly enjoyed them when I had them, although I did cook them a bit long and forgot how much they can caramelise. But I really enjoyed it all the same. And a note to self though is, Angela, don't put the garlic on at the beginning of cooking. Do it at the end, because the garlic did burn a little in places, but not enough to make it a horrible thing to eat. The smell was divine. But if I do go out, I may pop to a shop later. I'm talking about that because pomme dauphinoise would be lovely, and although you can make it with milk, it's far better if it's made with cream. So that's very thinly sliced potatoes, parboiled, and then covered with cream or cream and milk or chives, some out of chives, and freshly crushed garlic, salt, pepper. And it's cooked in the oven until the cream really thickens up and the potatoes are soft and everything's this wonderful garlicky, creamy loveliness. Absolutely gorgeous. One of my favourite dishes. I don't make it often because it's incredibly difficult for me to make enough for just, for one meal. It always seems to come out bigger, and I think, oh yeah, that'll do me for 2 meals. Oh no. With cranberry sauce. Oh, my favourite. And either smoked ham style corn or the corn smoked bacon. It's divine. Peas or Brussels sprouts. It's one of my favourite meals. But because it's so rich with the cream, it's something I don't have too often, because I know that it's a treat every once in a blue moon. As I'm thinking about it, I think that's maybe where I'll be going out later on, because it's, supermarkets will be open, and I think, and if not, well, there's something tomorrow. So I'm not sure if they will be open today, or they usually are on a bank holiday. That will definitely be a later on kind of thing for me to do. So and some of these aren't all that thick, the lines at the bottom, which means that I'm not getting that illusion. So it does just mean going back together. My pen work is appalling today. Tell I haven't used this pen much for ages. And I think pressing on it has made it just that little bit softer than I like, but it is what it is. I think it's the best way to say it. So, well, the other thing I was doing yesterday evening was I'm following this Domestica course by Lapin on botanical watercolour sketchbook, and I'm not very good with watercolours, but I've got to the point where you learn about colours you can make with blues and yellows. So naturally I have not one set of watercolours, do I? Oh no, I have a couple of them, but I can't find my sets of watercolour tubes. So I'm going to show you, because my book is over here. Hopefully it's this one. I think it is. Yeah, it is. Is that you really need 3-4 blues, 3-4 yellows. So I've managed that, But the difference in the colours you get, I don't know if you can see, let me have a look, there we are. So the top ones here, these are the blues and yellows, and also an ochre. I put the ochre there by mistake, and the ochre there, which is a yellowy brown. And those blues, I think I missed one of the blues out there in the set, because there were some that were similar. It's a Phoenix one, they're supposed to be professional grade. And you can see all the slightly different shades of green you get with these different colours, just by mixing blue and green. I mean, they weren't mixed, you know, sort of like half and half or in any proportion. I just mixed them together to see what tones they get. Very olivey with the indigo. You know, the ochre on this one is really mucky, but some interesting greens with some of the colours as well. So, you know, I wouldn't use these necessarily, but I don't know. These are the St. Petersburg White Knights. Only four yellows in that. That's the brown ochre, which is it's got a weird texture. It's thick and I don't know how to describe it, but gummy, I think, almost, and it just doesn't move easily. But these colours aren't as nice as these, and these are far more expensive. These are the De La Rowney ones in a tin. And I did add a couple of greens there because there was a yellowy green and so on to see what happens. And I get some quite nice colours, but these seem to be the most vibrant and the ones that seem to have the cleanest colours after mixing. These seem to be a bit mucky. And here again, there's the yellows with that green and that green as well, a different green, just to see what happens. And then I had a look at, I've got a set of, Reeves tube watercolours. I found these and I thought, I'll have a look. They're sort of student grade or whatever. I've had them for years, and you can tell the colours are sort of like, they're really not nice. They're very mucky and muddy and not clean. And then these, I've got a set of Inktense Paints. There's 24 colours in there. And there's a fair number of blues, a bluey green. I put Payne's Grey in there as well. I put Payne's Grey in this one. I didn't do Payne's Grey in the others because Payne's Grey has got a blue tint to it. But the Inktense is quite interesting. The ochre is obviously very much a brown, so you get those colours. The Payne's Grey, it's worked quite nicely actually, but there's only 2 yellows really in that set. So the range of greens you get is quite limited. So I used to have lots more sets of watercolours, but I suspect a few years ago that they got out in the big clear out, and so hey ho is all I'm going to say, hey ho. So I have ordered a set of Cotman, which aren't exactly professional grade, but they're sort of like student grade. They're good enough for what I'd want to do, no doubt. And so I was, doing some of this while I was chatting to Brett. It'd be quite nice if I could put some of these in the same tin with some of these, but these are full pans, these are half pans. So these are part pans with the Inktense, but I don't think do they come out? I don't know, I don't think they come out the holders. And the Reeves are in the bin. I wouldn't give them to an enemy. But that's my opinion. But perhaps a child would love them or whatever, but they're old and as well. They're many, many years old. I must have bought them when I was doing A-level art. Now, this paper isn't watercolour paper either. It's the Sea White All Media paper, so it's cartridge paper that's been sized to make it a bit more robust with washes and watercolours. And it's likely to be the sketchbook I'd use if I do go out sketching and drawing botanicals and so on. Because I get a good enough effect, and I really am looking at using colours that will give a background wash and perhaps some fading from light to dark to light, and then intensify things and add other colours with coloured pencils. I think will be my aim. But those are these are the ones that are the nicest, and that surprised me because they weren't the most expensive out of them. Said they could have done with some of the yellows. These two they're just so similar, and there are differences there, but of course I need, perhaps I'll do some swatches where I go from a lot of one colour and gradually decrease the yellow and increase the amount of blue and see what happens. But I don't know, I'm talking about it and I'm tempted. So, but I always used to enjoy drawing plants and things, not just plants, but architecture, and the principles will be the same. But it's nice to get those kinds of clues about how to mix colours and how to use watercolours in this way. I keep saying I'm going to give up on them, and I keep going back to them, don't I? I'm a glutton for punishment. But if nothing else, things will gel in my head in ways I can use them. What I want to do is, I just want to add something here, I think. Because even though I haven't filled up to the edges of this, yet, that I've actually got here something that's quite a nice and interesting shape, I think, around this. Yes, I'm going to leave some white space. Shock. Horror. Headline news: Angela Porter leaves white space in her artwork. Yep, I think so. And I'm going to scallop those ones to tie in there. Let me have a look. I think I need just a bit more up here, and so I'm going to be very bold with this, and just add these. Again, I'll scallop the edges just a tad to tie in, and then perhaps a bit more, so get that kind of diagonal flow across the page. Let me check. It's very strange. It's like some weird monster crawling across the page. Looks like a foot. But I'm going to call that, as an experiment, done. I may scan it, well, I will scan it in for my social media posts, but I don't know whether I'm going to do anything more with it. It's more showing an experiment I did with the typography. That's something I'll need to learn perhaps more about going forward, about setting out in styles. But I had a play with the Tombow Fudenosuke pen, which I haven't done for a while, and I've got something that's just made of lines and nothing else. So I quite like it, actually, sort of. It's almost like it's enfolding the quotes. That could be something. I wonder. Could be an interesting thing to do. Why not? Again, this is something that if I want to, I can alter as I perhaps need to. That's going to be an interesting one. There we go. So I could, in theory, just carry these on. Don't know, perhaps. Doesn't matter that I've messed it if I've messed it up. It's just a thought I had, and it's something for me to think about in future, because I could have had these growing out of some of the letters, especially if I'd made capitals bigger. It's something to think about maybe in future, but we'll see. Bit of fun. So whatever you're doing today, I know in America it's a holiday weekend as well. Is it Memorial Day? I think Brett told me. Don't know about the rest of the world in the UK. Or whenever you're watching this, please take care of yourselves. Enjoy what you can, be creative where you can, and if you've enjoyed my video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and perhaps subscribing to the channel as well, so that you get notifications then of when I upload videos. It's been for the past month or so just about every day, but with me needing to focus on other stuff for a while, it might be less frequent now over the coming month or so, but I'll see, because I do draw every morning, but it may be that I just want to do some warm-up and get straight to work, and editing videos and things like that can take some time out of my day, but we'll see. So thanks very much. Take care now. Bye.